Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that honestly completely defies the odds. We're charting the unbelievable documentary-style journey of one man's path from a humble, somewhat messy garage to, well, basically reshaping the entire global landscape. We are exploring the architecture of ambition itself by unpacking the untold story of Jeff Bezos. Together, we're going to break down the exact strategies, the massive risks, and the pretty controversial philosophies that built an empire. An empire that literally changed how we shop, how we read, watch movies, and even how we explore space. Okay, let's just jump right into it. Would you abandon a guaranteed fortune for a complete mystery called the internet? I really want you to picture this for a second. Imagine you've landed one of the highest-paying, most coveted jobs on Wall Street. Your future? Absolutely guaranteed. Your path is set in stone. And then, you just decide to walk away? You pack up, you drive across America with nothing but a newly typed business plan, and you bet your entire livelihood on a concept that, back then, almost nobody even understood. It sounds completely crazy, right? But as you'll see, that is exactly how the opening chapter of the Jeff Bezos story begins.
Part 1. The Foundation. The Inventor's Mindset.
Now, to understand how someone actually makes a massive leap like that, we really have to look at their beginnings. Born in 1964, Bezos was just fundamentally obsessed with learning how things worked. He loved building things from scratch. He just didn't think like an ordinary kid. His mind was wired completely differently. During his childhood, he spent his summers down on his grandfather's ranch in Texas, and his grandfather played a huge role in shaping his mental framework. You see, on a remote ranch, you can't just call a repairman when things go wrong. The rule was simple. When something breaks, you fix it. When a problem pops up, you solve it. Period. Those summers drilled this deep, unwavering sense of self-reliance into him. It wasn't just about doing chores. It was about building the ultimate foundational problem-solving skills that would become the bedrock of his whole business philosophy later on.
And you know that ranch-honed self-reliance? It very quickly evolved into serious ambition. As a kid, he literally turned his parents' garage into a makeshift laboratory, building gadgets, running experiments, just constantly looking for ways to improve stuff around him. That relentless drive pushed him right through Princeton University. And after graduating, he took that exact same inventor's mindset straight into the cutthroat world of finance. He rapidly rose through the ranks to become a total star at a prestigious hedge fund called D.E. Shaw. The salary was massive. The future was completely secure. By all traditional metrics, everyone thought he had officially made it.
Part 2, the call to adventure. The great gamble. So up to this point, we've got a classic tale of corporate success, right? But the trajectory of his life, and frankly, the trajectory of modern commerce, was about to hit a massive pivot point. While he was reviewing a report at that comfortable Wall Street job, Bezos spotted a staggering statistic: 2,000%. He discovered that internet usage was growing by more than 2,000% annually. That isn't just growth, that's an absolute explosion. This mind-bending number acted as the ultimate inciting incident for him. He saw a tidal wave coming that, honestly, most of the world was totally blind to. Now, what's really fascinating here is how he actually processed that overwhelming statistic. Walking away from Wall Street for some digital unknown was a massive gamble. So he used this specific cognitive tool he came up with, calling it the regret minimization framework. It sounds kind of academic, but it's incredibly straightforward and deeply profound. He basically projected himself forward to age 80 and asked, okay, looking back, would I regret leaving my secure Wall Street job? The answer was probably not. But then he asked, would I regret missing out on this massive internet revolution? And the answer to that was absolutely yes, without a doubt. He realized he wouldn't regret trying and failing, but he would deeply, deeply regret never trying at all.
Part 3. Crossing the Threshold. Building Amazon.
That mental clarity gave him the exact push he needed. In 1994, to the total shock of his colleagues, and even with his boss practically begging him to stay, he quit. He and his wife, Mackenzie, hopped in a car and drove across America. And while she drove, he was sitting right there in the passenger seat, actively typing up the business plan. Their destination? Seattle, the eventual birthplace of his new garage startup. Now, as he launched in 1995, he had to figure out what to actually sell first. A lot of people still wonder, out of all the things in the world, why did Amazon start with books? Well, it was a remarkably calculated strategy. Books were literally the perfect initial product for the internet. There were millions of titles in print, right? No physical brick-and-mortar store on Earth could possibly hold them all. But a virtual online store? It could offer every single one. It was the absolute perfect proof of concept for the limitless capacity of the web. In the early days, orders were so slow that Bezos was packing the boxes himself. But then, the idea spread like wildfire, and thousands of customers just started pouring in. Part 4, The Ordeal, the customer obsession and zero profits. Of course, explosive growth brings explosive challenges. Surviving this wild era required an unbelievable amount of grit and a business philosophy that went completely against everything traditional finance taught. While competitors were constantly obsessing over what the other guys were doing, Bezos was aggressively focused on something entirely different. His core mission, which captures his whole philosophy perfectly, was to become Earth's most customer-centric company. He wanted lightning-fast delivery, the widest possible selection, the lowest prices, and maximum convenience. Every single major decision the company made was strictly filtered through this one defining lens. And to make sure this wasn't just some empty corporate buzzword, they did something really unique. In some important Amazon meetings, they literally pull up an empty chair to the table. That chair represents the customer. It serves as this constant physical reminder to every single executive in the room about whose voice actually matters the most. It completely forces the team to answer to the consumer rather than just the boardroom. Now, here's the crucial part. This intense customer obsession totally clashed with the financial world. Wall Street was laser-focused on quarterly profits and short-term earnings. That's just how they operate. But Bezos, he was focused entirely on long-term dominance and endless reinvestment. For years and years, Amazon barely made any profits at all. Financial analysts called him reckless, investors heavily criticized him, and honestly, a lot of people truly believed Amazon was inevitably going to collapse. But Bezos flat out refused to change course. He completely ignored the demand for short-term earnings and poured almost every single penny back into growth, building massive new warehouses, developing cutting-edge tech, launching new services. People thought he was crazy, but he was just playing a much, much longer game. Part 5, the ultimate boon, beyond just retail. And that long game is exactly where we start to see the hidden engines of his empire. Because Amazon was never destined to just be an online bookstore or even just a massive retail everything store. His vision extended way, way beyond that. When we look at this timeline, we see the rapid, almost astonishing escalation of his ambition. It starts back in 1964 with those foundational Texas ranch lessons. Then that massive pivot in 1994, leaving Wall Street behind. The humble 1995 garage launch. But then the 2000s roll around. In 2000, he founds a space company, Blue Origin. And then in 2006, he launches AWS. This trajectory clearly shows us a mind that is constantly expanding its horizon, constantly looking literally decades into the future, while everyone else is just worrying about tomorrow. Let's actually talk about that 2006 launch for a second, because it's the secret business that most people completely ignored at first. Amazon Web Services, or AWS, is basically the hidden engine of the internet. When it launched, very few people paid attention, but today, it powers a massive portion of the entire global internet, from Netflix to thousands of scrappy startups to massive Fortune 500 corporations and even government agencies. They all depend on AWS. It completely revolutionized the tech industry and became one of Amazon's absolute most profitable businesses. It entirely validated all those years of prioritizing tech infrastructure over immediate retail profits. It was a real game changer. And his long-term thinking extends way, way beyond e-commerce or cloud computing. Back in 2000, while he was deep in the trenches of trying to build Amazon, he quietly founded Blue Origin. Now, this wasn't just some billionaire's whim. This was a childhood dream of space exploration finally realized. His staggering long-term vision is to literally see millions of people living and working in space. A lot of people laughed at this idea initially, just like they laughed at the idea of an online bookstore that didn't make profits. But Bezos firmly believes that long-term thinking is the exact tool we need to solve humanity's biggest challenges. Blue Origin started with a dream, exactly the same way Amazon started in a garage.
Part 6, the elixir, the Bezos blueprints.
All right, we've covered the history, we've covered the strategy, so let's distill this incredible journey into 4 absolute key pillars we can take away from this explainer today. First up, think long-term. Most of us overestimate what we can do in a single year, but we severely underestimate what we can achieve in a decade. Second, take calculated risks. Every single great opportunity inherently involves uncertainty, right? You just have to embrace it. Third, obsess over your customers. Build businesses that actually solve real problems for people, because at the end of the day, that is what creates lasting value. And finally, fourth, never stop innovating, because the success you enjoy today absolutely does not guarantee your success tomorrow. You see, Jeff Bezos wasn't just lucky. He saw opportunities that everyone else ignored. He happily left his comfort zone in the dust, and he thought decades ahead of the curve. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. What bold decision will define your long-term legacy? I challenge you to apply that regret minimization framework to your own life today. Project yourself forward to age 80. Look back and ask yourself what chances you'll deeply regret not taking. Because extraordinary success almost always begins with one bold decision. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it sparks some grand ambitions of your own.